Happy New Year! Well, folks, we did it. 2025 is here. And for those of you who are watching this video right now, I hope you guys had a wonderful New Year's. Hope it was healthy, safe, and, got some good prospects on the horizon for everybody. But today, I figured I'd do something a little bit different. After the recent success of my latest video that I posted, I decided to go take a little bit of a detour from my usual style of content that I have for you guys. So, we are going to be presenting to you Zune. Now I know what some of you are thinking. What the heck is a Zune? Why are you reviewing something that was like a very, very ancient relic of the past? Well, part of it was basically curiosity. See, recently I ended up getting another new phone for Christmas. Yes, it is the latest 16 Pro Max. Do not judge, alright? I've had my reasons for upgrading. But the main reason why I wanted to look into the Zune was because I realized that the dependency on phones was going to get worse and worse over time. So, the antidote to all this? Separate music players. You'd be surprised. A lot of people are starting to gravitate towards this style of device. Now, DangPods definitely has his contributions to bringing the iPod back to its former glory. Well, I hope with this video today for you guys that I will be able to bring the Zune back to its former glory. And yes, I do have for you, this is the Zune HD. This was basically considered like their iPod Touch competitor, if you will. So not only am I going to go over the history of Zune, what it was like to own it back then, but also I'm going to show you around. What is it like owning a Zune player in our year and savior 2025? We are going to find out right now. So, what's the history behind these guys? Well, a few things. In 2006, Microsoft decided to start a round of digital media products that basically were focused more towards the music side of things. They recognized one thing: Apple was growing powerful, and they did not like that whatsoever. So, in order to compete with them, they started their own line of music services. So, Microsoft collaborated with Toshiba, funny enough, to create their own line of portable media players, as they called it. And that basically meant they were able to challenge the iPod. Now, did they succeed at this? By no means, no. But they definitely had, I think, the second biggest market share in media at the time, and they actually did a really good job. Now, obviously, I'm going to go over for you guys the interface and like how things ran back then, but that'll definitely come a little bit later on in this video. The hardware definitely was impressive. You had 30 gigabytes all the way up to 120 gigabytes, so fitting songs into these little devices definitely was no challenge. But the digital marketplace side, the infrastructure, and just the way that you acquire songs in the first place was definitely lacking. Hence the reason why Apple dominates the landscape when it comes to music. So, with all that being said, oh, and before I go any further, I might as well preface this too, that it was October of 2011 that Zune decided to discontinue all of their hardware altogether. And then, at that point, 2012 was also the year that the software discontinued, but there is a way you could be able to still get it running. I'm going to try my best for legal purposes not to state all of it, but it is very useful if you wanted to try it out for yourself. So, let's see what that baby's got inside. Okay, so right over here, you're going to be asking yourself, wait, this looks very, very similar to an iPod Touch. And you'll be correct in me stating that. This right here was the Zune HD, and at the time, this actually was the competitor to the iPod Touch. No other brand was able to carry the same weight that Microsoft did with this Zune HD right here. Now, obviously the one that I purchased right here is not going to be in the greatest of shape. You got some little nicks on the sides, the rubber plastic on the bottom's like starting to rub off, and yeah, the back plates, yeah, it's looking a little scuffed. Hence the reason why I ended up like buying one of these things right here to replace it, but that'll be a future endeavor. Now, the one thing that really set this thing apart was the interface, and lucky enough, I do have this thing charged up and ready, so we're just gonna fire this up. Now, the cool thing about the Zune HD was the fact that this thing actually boasted one of the first OLED screens at the time. Now, no other tech company was able to produce an OLED panel like this before, but because of the fact that they had the backing of Toshiba, and also Microsoft's like endless supply of like marketing, research, and development, they were able to create a 3.3-inch OLED panel. And so, as you can see, I'll start back from the beginning. This is what the lock screen's supposed to look like. You got your battery up here, whatever funky wallpaper you can choose, which you can like change in the Zune application that you could download on your PC. And you got the time right there. So when you swipe up, you go straight into the interface. Now, the one thing I absolutely love is just the cleanness and the seamlessness of the actual interface itself. I love how easy it is to get access to certain functions just by tapping on it, and when you tap on it, it gets bigger. Every aspect of it gets bigger. We are going to get out of that for obvious reasons, but we also have, yes, as you can see in this like scrolling like interface right here, you got your music, you got your videos, your pictures, radio, marketplace, social, internet apparently, which I think was only available on the Zune HD. The older ones I'm not so sure about. You guys can comment down below if you find this out yourselves. Then you also got your apps and you also got your settings. Now, the actual button layout of the Zune HD was definitely a little bit more cleaner. Now, iPods, obviously, you had your singular home button, which this definitely copied, let's be frank here. But they surprisingly do not have a volume rocker. Now, why would they do this exactly? Well, Zune decided to basically implement this unique system where if you were to, let's say, click on a song, let's do this one for example, you could hit this button on the side and it brings up a little digital control function. So you could change the volume rockers, you could skip a song, you could go back a song, anything to your desire. You can hit this exit button to make it go away. And I thought that this was really cool, honestly. Now, do I wish that there was physical controls here? Obviously, yes. But the way that this was implemented was very slick, and it almost kind of reminds me of like it was a digital interface similar to what Sony's got on their current headphones with the touch sliding controls and stuff. Way more functional and obviously like physical, but I love the aspect of it. Now, going back to what it looks like playing on the player here, you could see they got presented in a very, very clean way. So if I go back, I want to kind of start from the beginning here. You go to the side, it'll show you you're now playing, it'll show you your pins, and also like the history of stuff that was playing. Also will show you like new additions to your library. So click on this, and you get to see the transitions are really clean, they're super simple, they don't require a lot, but the way that they present everything is impressive. You got your album artwork in very crystal clear fashion due to that OLED screen. You got your album title, your artist, we're gonna go back for a second, and obviously the mini play right here. The cool part though, you could just tap this part down below, you could play whatever other song you want, like straight on the fly. Now I know Apple's got their own little system where you could hit like the three prongs on the bottom, you could be able to bring up the list, but I find this to be so much more cleaner and efficient, because all you gotta do is just hit the song title and pick whatever other song you want to play. So we could just do this one instead, and it works so well. Now down below right here, if I could focus, you got a shuffle button, you got your repeat, and you got your heart button right there. So if you wanted to favorite any song that you listen to, you could be able to do so. Now, here's the cool part. Look at the static screen here. Album cover slides up. Got the song title in a different size font. You got the artist title scrolling up here. It'll show you the length that is playing right there. And depending on how long you have the screen timeout set for, it is different every time. I've always found this to be such an aesthetic thing. A quick story for you. One time I was sitting on a bus at school, and I was one of the many kids who ended up having an iPod Touch back in the day. There was the one guy that I saw who was sitting diagonal from me who owned one of these things, and he had this static screen show up. I was blown away. I almost wanted one of these things, but granted, we were like Apple people at the day, so we were always like in tune with whatever devices that they were putting out. So I was unable to get one of these up until now. And let me tell you, I love the way that this looks. You could say whatever you want. Oh, like I love the mini players on just like the iPhones. Not really like this sort of thing. This just looks a little tacky. Okay, you can have your opinions if you want. Like you can see right there, it's changing. It's so cool. And obviously this isn't gonna be for everybody. This whole form factor isn't going to be for everybody, but the good news is Zune did have other players that you could use. You could be able to choose the Zune 30s, you could do the Zune 80s, the Zune 120s, there's even a 4 and an 8 gig versions. They're all in different styles, and I'll show them a row of them up on the screen right here. But this was the one that drew my attention the most because 1, that OLED looks sick. 2, the interface was super cool at the time, and 3, this was different from anything else that was out at the time. So this just kind of fit the bill for me. Now, if you click the center button right here, this will actually bring you straight back to the home screen, kind of similar to what like Apple did with like their iPods and stuff. But what else could you be able to do on the Zune besides like have some fancy aesthetic music playing in the background? We'll show you right now. Alright, so before I show you guys more of the interface here and stuff that I could do, I do gotta preface this. There is a way that you could be able to load up the Zune software on a modern day computer. I'm not gonna tell you explicitly, for legal reasons, where to find that stuff, but if you go on certain forums, you're gonna be able to find the download links for it, so I'll leave it at that. Long story short, a lot of these songs are very easily obtainable through MP3 downloading sites and stuff like that. Hence the reason why I seem to have quite a large list of artists already included. And it's still going to be growing because I'm definitely going to try and use this a lot more than my phone over there. But what else can you use? Well, you could play videos, which unfortunately I only have this to show you, but nonetheless, we'll go with that. As you can see, this screen is fantastic. Just look at how beautiful and how sharp this thing is. Viewing angles, excellent. I mean, I guess minus that because the sun's right there. But nonetheless, this is just a fantastic looking panel. And as you can see when you're playing videos, it'll show this little interface right here too. You could still use the volume controls. You don't even need to push the button because of the fact that that's there. So we'll just back out of that real quick. You got pictures. You could look at some pictures. I have a couple that I've downloaded right here for you guys so you can be able to see what it looks like. And yes, multi-touch functionality is possible with this screen. Thank you, Toshiba. You guys helped out a lot. So you could double tap and double tap again. You could scroll through whatever part of the picture we have here, or you could do the classic pinch to zoom and it just works phenomenally. So you could scroll through, do your normal stuff like that, and then just go back to the home screen. Now, the radio, it does have functionality. As you can see, you could choose like whatever like radio station you wanted to. It does have like a dedicated like scroll wheel right there, which is pretty nice, and you gotta respect like the level of craftsmanship that Zune offers. It's not the prettiest thing in the world. It's definitely simplistic, but it gets the job done. So if you go back there, let's see, I think there's a way, oh yeah, obviously. Pause, exit. There we go. So, you know, radio is functional. Obviously, you do need to have a pair of earphones, which thankfully, they do have a 3.5mm headphone jack right there, so that is definitely possible. And Bluetooth, surprisingly, I'm not sure about this either, but there has been like sources that did say that it is possible to be able to use Bluetooth on this. don't quote me on that, but there's definitely, I guess, like a couple like older pairs of Bluetooth earbuds that you could be able to use, or headphones. So just try it out for yourself if you do get a chance to pick up one of these. But neither here nor there. Marketplace does require the internet, which I will not be connecting for the purposes of this video. Also, the social aspect. Back when Microsoft and Zune were doing their thing, there was like a social component to Zune. Apparently they had some way that you could be able to share like people's musics with one another, only if you both had a Zune account at the same time. Now, was it the most perfectly implemented thing in the world? Absolutely not. But it did offer some level of quirkiness and functionality to something that, most people were like using a lot back in the day. You do also have your internet browser, and at the time it did have a marketplace store that was basically called I think it was like the Zune Marketplace or something like that. That is no longer operating, so unfortunately you can't use a lot of the apps that were available for this thing. However, again, for legal reasons, I will tell you that there is a way that you can get some downloaded. Now going to the settings, there's quite a few things that you could be able to customize. You could implement your wireless Wi-Fi. You could change the display up. So if you go to here, you could even output this to your TV if you had like the cables for it. You could change your brightness, tilt, have a screensaver, that sort of stuff. For your music, you could even put equalizers on here. So for some reason it's got, you can do acoustic, classical, electronic, hip-hop, jazz, the whole 9 yards. So I'm just gonna leave it at none for now, because initially when I was using this, apparently I did have it on the rock equalizer setting, so we'll see how that sounds later on. But you also do got your clock here, so you can be able to reset the image, and you can enable a pin in order to access it, which I think is really cool. Very good security features right there. You also have a keyboard. You can change keyboard settings there. So yeah, this is a pretty well thought out device. Now, with all of these videos that I do release for y'all, there's obviously going to be some drawbacks, and we're going to be talking about those drawbacks in a second. Alrighty, so while I've been gushing a lot about the Zune player and just its overall cool factor and like uniqueness, there are definitely some drawbacks that I do want to mention. For one, obviously, because of the fact that the software is no longer operating, you do gotta have like a machine that's able to run these sorts of things with no problems whatsoever. Now, the good news is the software itself is light. However, you're gonna definitely need a lot of memory if you want to plan on adding a bunch of songs to your list and stuff like that. The other thing too, and it really does disappoint me saying this, the connector. What the heck is this? When I was looking for some power cables to be able to operate this, I noticed the similarity was very clear, as if this was a 30-pin knockoff. Now you could probably see at the top here there are some slight differences. Only a true tech connoisseur would understand that, not me unfortunately. But yeah, this was definitely a very close carbon copy to the iPod. And because of that, a lot of people will mistake the 30-pin connector to be similar to the Zune one. So that goes without saying, when you are planning on buying the necessary accessories to make it running, be sure that you do pick up that cable, because if you don't, you're going to be left with a Zune player that probably will not be able to hold a charge very good. And that leads to the other thing. The secondary market. Now, I don't know what was said back then that led to this, but the Zune players are exorbitantly expensive for no reason. I was only lucky to get this one that was sold as for parts, but they said that it was working and it only needed a power cable. So I lucked out on that, and this is a 16 gigabyte Zune HD. These usually run about $80 to $90. I got this for about $50. And That's pretty big downside in general. Like not just like the iPods are getting expensive, but even the Zune players themselves. So, if you want like a good piece of advice on which ones to get that'll not break the bank for you, I recommend going for the Zune 4 gigabytes or go for the Zune 8 gigabytes if you're lucky. Because those ones, at the very least, they will run you a lot better. The longevity is definitely a lot better. You won't be relying on, expensive screen replacements and backplates and all those other sorts of stuff that you'll have to worry about if you had a Zune HD. So, definitely look at those kinds. And if you do have the coin to be able to spend, look at the Zune 80 gig models and the 120 gig models. And apparently, I also found this out too, they do have flash modding capabilities, i.e., you could place an SSD in there and like store infinitely more music than you could with just the base storage alone. So definitely look at that if you have the coin to spend on it, or just go for this in 32 or 64 gig flavors. So that's really the end of this video right here. So be sure to give a like on this video, guys. I do appreciate the support that you guys have been giving me on the channel. It really does mean a lot. Continue to follow me on BlueSky for any updates and my community tab. I hope to put out some more bangers for you guys this year. I really want to like fire on all cylinders with this channel, and I do appreciate the continuous amount of support that is given over here. So, with that being said, it's your boy Retro Landline, calling you back from the past, and peace.